Golf Show, and we've got a stacked panel for you today. I'm Jared Smith. Follow me on Twitter at Jared Lee Smith. Let's introduce the panel before we get into some golf picks for Colonial this weekend. Very good panel joining us today. We got Dave Cokin out in Vegas. We got Nick Borrman and Andy Lang joining us today. And again, we're going to be handicapping the Colonial event this weekend, the Charles Schwab Challenge. It's the first golf event. The PGA is back. It's been 3 months since we've had professional golf, and we're really excited about this event. Dave, I'll start with you. No golf to handicap over the last 3 months, so what you've been doing to keep busy there, brother?
Well, KBO for me, and had some fun with UFC. I don't handicap UFC, but obviously watch the events and bet a couple of guys on recommendations from other people and cashed a ticket on this last one, which was nice. So, keeping busy, but now we're getting more into the flow, and hopefully Major League Baseball will settle their differences, and they'll be going pretty soon.
Yeah, that's another story for another day. Nick Borrman hanging out in New Jersey right now. Nick, obviously it's been one of those weird times in sports, but it does feel like the ramp up is happening, and this PGA event certainly is going to feel somewhat normal this weekend with some quirks.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a lot of the major sports, obviously NBA coming back, MLB, like as Dave mentioned, hopefully soon. Soccer, at least in the European circuit, has returned, so there is action everywhere. And golf finally coming back this week. No fans, so no surprise there, but it'll be an exciting tournament. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the most interesting thing. We're going to get into all that and handy. Andy, NASCAR, you've been killing it. Now you're getting into the world of golf for us here. Talk about, what you're looking at this week as we start to get ramped back up with the PGA.
I've been scouring social media, trying to find who's been staying in shape and who's been practicing, because that's like the most important thing going into this week. I've never handicapped who took 4 months off in the middle of spring, but I've got some ideas.
I think that's the most fascinating thing about this. And Dave, I'll start with you. Colonial obviously is a course that we know very well. It's on the circuit, but it's a course that I think, the big boys don't always come out for. But because it's the first start back, I think you're getting a lot of people that are going to play Colonial for the first time. Some of the big names like Rory McIlroy, who was absolutely tearing it up before the pause happened. So first of all, Dave, talk about some of the picks you're going to be offering in your packages, and then tell us a little bit about Colonial and how you see this course shaping up.
Well, I've got a 5 matchup package. I'll give away an outright at some point on the show here. Outrights are, they're lottery tickets for the most part. But I do have 5 matchups up. They're regularly priced at $39, but you get all 5 for $19 at WagerTalk.com. Some of the things I'm looking for here, first of all, this is very much a shot makers, ball strikers, and putters tournament. The big bombers have not done well here over the years. So, if you're looking at driving distance, you can pretty much scrap that and focus more on driving accuracy, and obviously guys that can putt. Also, for what it's worth, it's been a tournament where guys who've had experience on the course have done quite well, whereas first-timers have often struggled. But there's so many first-timers in the field this year, I don't know if that's going to hold up or not. Good course. The weather's going to be really good. Not much wind, so you're probably looking at 15 to 20 under as a winning score this week, and I'm looking forward to it. I've got some ideas on some guys that we'll talk about during the show.
Nick, I think the no fans thing is fascinating to me, and when I was thinking about it last night when I was doing some capping, usually the fans are in the rough and they're stamping down the rough, and I was thinking to myself, man, oh man, someone who's not accurate off the tee, some of these bombers, they hook it into the rough. They're used to being in a crowd of people where the rough's been patted down. So I think precision, even more so with no fans, is going to be a metric to look at this week.
You're absolutely right. I mean, this is a tournament for all of us weekend duffers that, I don't know how many times I'm out there and I spray a tee shot and I'm going, you know what? If I just had a gallery of people over there, hit that guy and I would have stayed in play. And that's not going to be the case. Of course, they still have cameras, so they may not lose the ball, but they're definitely going to have the disadvantage of, as you mentioned, the rough being full length and not cut or not trampled down for them to get a benefit of a lie. So, accuracy is going to be huge here more than ever. I think that's going to be a big factor over the next weeks, months, however long this goes without fans besides this week. But as Dave mentioned, Colonial already was a shot maker's course where greens are small, no home field advantage necessarily taken away, but the fact that the ball's sprayed about the course not being a factor this week, I think that's something to kind of consider as we go forward.
Yeah, you can see it right here. I mean, this is the course. I mean, look how small that green is.
Yep.
I mean, that's 18 at Colonial right there. That's a very uninviting target. Nick, before we move on, the packages you have on WagerTalk for the tournament this week.
Yes, I have a 6-pack up right now, head-to-head matchups available for $19, normally $39, up on my page right now. And I have a free pick posted, which I'll mention later, up on the site as well.
Great. Andy, the layoff obviously is the first thing I thought about to handicap here. How are you addressing that with your selections and talk for this tournament?
Well, I specialize in NASCAR and golf. That's it. So we've got NASCAR up. We got a Wednesday race. So if you want a Wednesday night race, that's up there. I have 3 head-to-head matchups. I actually started to look at personalities of the guys, and I think I dialed in a couple of guys that I like who can handle the layoff better than others. So, of course, you're looking at stats on putting and driving, and you look at the course, but I actually tried to look at some guys who I think are mature enough to handle this, who stayed in shape, who can handle some adversity. I'm looking forward to see how Jordan Spieth is going to get a drop when there's no stands around. That's something I'm looking forward to.
Dave, Kevin Na, last year's champions in the field, pretty long odds on him. He's one of those guys, like a Tony Finau, who I really like a lot this week, who has that course experience we're talking about. Kevin wasn't playing great before the break. I guess the question is, to me, the balance between guys who play well at Colonial, between guys who haven't been playing well before the break. How do you kind of balance those two metrics when you're looking at this tournament?
Well, I didn't read too much into the break. You got the guys who played in these charity events, which is Rory, DJ, Fowler, Wolf, and Phil, and then Dahman, Lashley, and Streelman played in whatever those satellite events were, so they might be a little more into things. But I course experience here is huge for me, and Kevin Na has phenomenal course experience here. 3 of his last 8 rounds on this course, 62 or better.
Yeah.
I mean, he loves it here. And Na's one of those guys where when he gets comfortable someplace, he can be really dangerous. So, if you're looking for a longer shot, I wouldn't call him a longer shot because he's somewhere in the top 25.
Yeah.
But he's still a pretty good price. And certainly a guy I looked at in his matchups. That's definitely a key for me here.
I'm curious, Nick, how are you looking at the top of this field? Rory, who's the presumptive favorite. I mean, he is the clear-cut favorite here, but he's never played Colonial before, and he was absolutely playing the best golf of anyone before this break. If you take Dave's mindset of not really worrying about what happened before the break, I think Rory, to me, you can almost dismiss him because of the lack of experience at Colonial.
Well, if history's an indicator of anything, you're right. I mean, going back to 2001, Sergio was the last first-time winner here. And another interesting stat I was reading on PGA Tour, the average age of winners since that is 36 years old. So obviously experience and course knowledge is a huge factor this week. Dave already mentioned that.
That's a huge one.
Rory, it's hard to write him off. He's a first-time winner. He's won other venues on his first time there. And like you mentioned, the guy had 7 straight top 5 finishes. I mean, that's Tiger of how good he was playing leading up to the break. So it's hard to write him off. Will he be there at the end? I think he will be. Will he necessarily win? Obviously, that's always hard to know. But I think he'll be there. I think he'll be in that final wave, maybe top 10, definitely top 20. But he's a guy, a betting value in him, unfortunately. It's very rare that you see him, even in a top 10, to get a good performance. So not a guy I usually like to look at. To answer your question, of the top guys this week, I think Rahm is probably the best equipped. He's young, but he has played here before 3 other times. And he had he's finished here in the top 3 twice, and he had a tie for 5th here as well. So this is a place where he can play well. He's the only one that's got experience in the top, and of course he was playing just as well as any of those other guys were before. So I think of the top guys, I think Rahm's the guy to look out for this week.
I think just on McIlroy quickly, I mean, it's not really the ideal course for him.
Sure.
I think he sets up better for the Travelers, which is later this month at River Highlands. That's a course that's made for his game. And if you're looking to outright Rory, I mean, you're never going to get a good price on him, but I'd focus more on that than I would here. I don't think he'll win this weekend.
Andy, do you take any credence in this opening 2 rounds that you're going to have Rahm and Koepka and Rory all playing together, the top 3 guys in the field, top 3 players in the world? Is that a fade or a plus? I've heard both sides where sometimes, you get pushed a little harder playing with the best players, but also it could be a little bit, maybe I don't want to say distraction, but maybe a little bit of a detriment that other guys are playing against lesser competition.
Well, if Rahm hits a couple bad shots on the first few holes, I mean, he's got the mental stability of a teenager on Instagram. So look for him to implode pretty quick if he doesn't hit the fairways. And I actually think not having the crowd is going to make guys think a little bit more. There's no distractions out there, except for these ridiculous tents where the guys hit the ball at the tee and then go in for a quick little interview. But other than that, it's all mental. You're just out there with your caddy and a couple guys. I think some of these guys that are used to huge galleries, I think it could throw them for a loop. So my bets this week really don't involve some of the big-name guys. I think they're going to be the hardest to handicap.
Interesting. Do you want to? Is there anyone in particular down the line that you think maybe is offering a little more value on the board than should? Because I agree with you. I do think the top 3 on the board don't really give me that juice to want to get to the window on. On the podcast that I host, we've loved this guy from the beginning of the year. We thought he was primed for a good year, and he's been good. It's Daniel Berger. He's 66-1 to win. 3 straight top 10 finishes before the break. It's one of 3 guys playing this week who has that. This guy he was an elite prospect, and then he became an elite golfer. He was great, and he had that bad wrist injury. Took him a long time to come back. He's fully healed. His swing looks great. The results have been there. That might have given away a guy I'm going to be betting on this week. But, yeah, there's a guy down the list that nobody's going to be paying attention to. I get all the info out of you. That's what I do. Anything on Jordan Spieth, guys? I feel like that's a name that we've really thrown out. I don't know. 42-1. He's played Colonial before. He's won there before, but he hasn't really been in form recently.
Well, no, he hasn't been in form for quite some time. And I think he's a guy who could actually win this tournament or miss the cut. I don't think there's much in between. We'll find out early on him. I would say at 40-1 or better, I think that's the lottery ticket you take this week.
Okay.
Because if this layoff has helped him, he's certainly capable of playing extremely well. He loves this layout, and at that price, you might not even be playing on Saturday or Sunday. But if he is playing on Saturday or Sunday, I'd look for him to be very much in contention.
Nick, I'm curious about this. So it looks like, and we don't have confirmation on this yet, but I've heard it's going to be Graham McDowell and Ricky Fowler as the players mic'd up. And again, this is kind of like a nuance, obviously adding some fanfare to what's going to be a fanless event. To me, that's a negative. I was watching very closely Tiger and Phil when they were mic'd up. They had like those packs on, and you would imagine it would throw off or at least how you think about your stroke and your follow through. That's a fade on those 2 guys if they're going to be mic'd up for this tournament. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Not only physically, think about it. We play golf. We go out there. We're joking with our buddies. That's one thing. These guys do it competitively, and they go through a round having a conversation with their caddy, and they don't say a lot much else, especially when it gets into the true thick of things. So now you're kind of thinking to yourself, what's the next thing I'm going to say on camera? What do I have to be funny here? What should I do next? So you're kind of taking away the focus of that next shot at hand. Or how to play the specific hole they're on. So I think more mentally than anything, it's going to be a deterrent for these guys.
I don't know if I agree with that from this standpoint. I think the personalities of those 2.
I agree. Fowler, my next follow-up.
Ricky Fowler likes the
loves
spotlight.
The attention.
Yeah, exactly. He likes the spotlight. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's his type of personality. He enjoys it. And McDowell, I don't think anything bothers Graham McDowell. He's just about as even keel a guy as there is.
They just got him the accent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to get the international flavor on there.
I think if you were miking up somebody like Kevin Na, now you've got okay,
or even a John Rahm, absolutely. All of a sudden his brain is so strung out anyways from hole to hole. It seems like it's almost like a different golfer. So I do agree. I think they I think they probably decided on who to mic up based on some of those personality core, because you can't let John Rahm, who's going to curse and scream and yell and go crazy. Let that out there. Another name, Justin Rose, to me really stood out. Really good iron player. I really think he could be a guy, and obviously 2018 champion too. So any thoughts on Justin Rose, Andy, in terms of where he stacks up? I would say he's kind of middle of the road in terms of a long shot this week. He's kind of down the board, but not crazy long shot. I think he maybe offers a little bit of value because he's got really good history at this course.
His form has been so bad that I can't get near him. I don't know what happened to him. I know there was an equipment change in there. He's going to have to prove it before I put any money on him. I will say, ridiculous 125-1 long shot.
Love it.
If there's one guy who would love to play with no spectators, it's Bubba Watson, and this might be just his serenity, his serene. He might just love this, and he doesn't have to turn around and get mad at someone taking a picture. What if he falls into a comfort zone and really enjoys the no fans there?
Interesting. I was looking at the history of this event. So last year, Kevin Na, 50-1. Justin Rose in 2018, 18-1. That was one of the shortest odds we saw. Kisner was 30-1. That's another interesting name, Kevin Kisner. I saw him pretty low on the board. This event over the last 5 years at 6-1. I feel like something 20 or higher is going to be what wins here. I just have a feeling it's not going to be one of these top tier guys, one of these Rorys. I don't know. Would you err on the side of long shots here, guys, or do you think because of the talent level in this field, the top of the pool is really what's going to rise?
Yeah, my feelings are it's probably going to be one of that wins the tournament because of the competitive nature of the field. And obviously I'm not ruling out a long shot. You could take Ryan Palmer, for instance, who's a member here, and probably won't have the distractions that he might have if crowds were on the scene. He might be a guy who's in one of the final and then has a Palmer meltdown. So I tend to think it'll be one of the bigger names, somebody in the Gary Woodland type category. Maybe not at the very top of the list, but close to elite. But I've been wrong before.
Got a question here in the chat. Webb Simpson. Any thoughts on Webb as he kind of navigates? He's been playing pretty well.
Well, Webb Simpson's. I mean, he's certainly one of the best players out there. The course would seem to be to his liking, although he's had a weird line on this course. Missed cut, then a third and a fifth, and then a missed cut. So he's been feast or famine on this course, but he's played so well. If the layoff doesn't hurt him, I suspect he's going to be very much in contention.
Yeah, Simpson already a win at Waste Management, the Phoenix Open, couple of top 10s, top 5 in Sony in Hawaii. So he's certainly been one of the guys. I guess we can touch on Harris English a little bit. That was another guy that jumped out to me with his numbers at Colonial. And again, we talk about the familiarity on this course, guys. 2 top 5s. Again, they were 2016 and 2012, so not very recently, but 28 under par, 22 career rounds. That's a lot of experience at one course. But again, not one of those top tier guys. Are you kind of, giving him a little bit of an edge off because he's not one of those better players in the field?
I think Harris you mentioned he's played this course well. He's played very well coming in, of course he got the layoff. I looked at him early for the head-to-head matchup. I was like, all right, who's Harris English playing? Who's he got? And of course they paired him up against Ryan Palmer. So I didn't like that matchup. I was like, both of those guys I was like, all right, whoever they're paired with is a good chance for a head-to-head bet, but against each other, I was like flipping a coin. But I do think he's going to have a good week. I kind of echo what Dave was saying before. There's 21 of the top 25 in the world here this week. When you see that kind of field at the majors or the WGC events, you see names that you're familiar with. And I'm not saying Harris English isn't familiar. I mean, we're familiar with it, but you're a casual fan really isn't familiar with him too much. I think you're going to see a name that even the casual fan is going to recognize this week rise out on top. So I don't necessarily think he's going to be there at the end, but I do think he'll play well this week.
Well, it's all about
all the. No, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
For English, I mean, to the form that he was supposed to have a few years ago, and I would just wonder if the pressure of being, the next rising star, or one of the next rising stars, kind of got to him. And now that he's back a little bit beneath the spotlight, He might be ready to get on a roll, and it's been mentioned he's got great form on this course.
Yeah.
The scoring average here is really strong. It'll be off the tee for English, though. That's the key. I mean, he can get a little bit scattershot off the tee, and if he's not accurate, then he's not going to be in the mix.
Yeah, don't forget you can get all these guys' picks on WagerTalk.com. They do a great job handicapping golf. We're going to be on the show for about another 15 minutes or so, and then we're going to let the AFC East NFL preview show take over. Ralph Michaels, Matt Josephson, of course, the Prez handling the business there, but we got a little bit more golf talk to get to. All right, top of the leaderboard, Rory, Rahm, Thomas, Webb Simpson. You've got to take one of those guys to have the best finish this week. Andy, I'll start with you. Of those top four on the odds board, tell me who you think is best suited for this particular course.
Well, since they play 4 rounds and Rory has to putt in the 4th round, I'm going to eliminate him. I don't think Rahm can hold it together.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Webb. He's been pretty consistent. I trust him that he's not the wild card. You know, those other guys, they're wild cards. So that I think is going to be consistent.
Any juice on Koepka here, guys? I mean, he's not. Usually, you'd think of him at the top. We mentioned Rahm, we mentioned Rory. Koepka's going to be in that group too. He's actually fifth, kind of not in the top 3 on the odds board right now. So maybe a little value on Koepka. What do you think there, Nick?
I've avoided Brooks all year. After he took his injury hiatus, he was working his way back. He had I think at least one decent finish, but he had a couple of real bad ones too. So I've avoided him. I'm going to avoid him this week. He does have a decent tournament here in his first time, but I don't like him this week.
Anything on Phil, Dave?
Yeah, I don't think Phil can win.
Yeah,
I don't know if Phil's going to win any more tournaments. The age thing is definitely a factor, but he's a guy who could do well here. I mean, he's had a lot of good finishes at this tournament. He's been a past winner twice. He's got a second. He's got a whole bunch of top 20s. And he came close to winning twice this year. So maybe I'm dead wrong about that. And he did play in that. Is actually a plus for him. I wouldn't bet against Phil this week. Let's put it that way. I did not. There's tournaments where I'm looking to bet against Phil because there's always value in doing so in matchups. But this isn't one of them. I completely stayed away from Phil this week. I don't know what to expect, really. He's
pretty low on the board. I was surprised. 100-1 is where I saw, again, he's been brutal, pre-restart, pre-pause, 4 missed cuts in his last 5 starts. But he has won twice at Colonial, and we talk about the precision, and I would put Phil in that category of precise iron players.
But the one thing is that he's almost 50.
Yeah, that's definitely the detriment.
Those guys just don't win on the PGA Tour.
And would you say the pause hurts him a little bit because maybe it's easier for a guy at that age to fall out of shape?
No, because he did play in that Champions for Charity event, and I think that was a sharpening up event for him, and he played pretty well.
He did.
So I think Phil's going to have a respectable weekend. I just don't think he's a guy I'd put any money on to win.
Someone I was looking at, it didn't really percolate for me in terms of the win, but in terms of maybe some matchups, maybe the top 20. Jason Day, kind of a weird enigma, had to withdraw from the tournament before the pause, lingering injuries, but he's had plenty of time off. Very good around the green, very good in first round putting. So maybe the early jitters won't affect him coming back. Also, he hasn't played Colonial since 2011. That would be the knock against him. Any thoughts on Jason Day, guys?
He's not even a top 50 guy anymore.
Yeah, no, he's not.
He just isn't. He's more name than anything else. He has one good finish in this tournament, but it's a while ago. I just, I'd love to see him do well because he seems like a great guy. But the health issues and the fact that he just doesn't putt well anymore, I think he's going to be very hard-pressed to win any tournaments in the foreseeable future.
Andy, the Bombers this week, obviously, this isn't a course that really suits them, the Dustin Johnsons, those types of players. Are you just completely avoiding them, or do you have a strategy to have to play some of these long-distance drivers that maybe aren't as accurate as they should be off the tee?
Well, I did have to laugh. Bryson DeChambeau puts on all the weight and increases his distance. And what's the first tournament that they come back on is like the worst possible course for that. He's been bad here in the past. He's missed 3 out of 4 cuts here. That'd be a guy I'd love to fade this week with DeChambeau. I hear that a lot. Like, oh, the Bombers, this isn't a course for them, and then a lot of them always seem to prove us wrong, or some of us prove them wrong. I think I'm done saying, well, this isn't a course that the Bombers can overpower. They can pull out 3-wood and put the ball in the fairway, and they're still hitting at 315 yards. So I'm not going to take the long ball hitters and just eliminate them all. There's approaching, there's putting, but if there is a guy who likes to think that he hits the ball a mile and I would like to fade, it's Bryson.
Yeah, and look, I mean, as far as Dustin Johnson goes, this is a Zach Johnson course more than a Dustin Johnson course. It just is. I mean, if you look at the list of the last 10 winners, Rose, Kisner, Spieth, Kirk, Adam Scott, Zach Johnson twice, David Tom.
Yeah. Phil.
They're just not big hitters. The course, the winner of this tournament, year in and year out, is a ball striker who putts. And to me, that's unfortunately, the Dustin Johnson matchups weren't to my liking. As far as betting goes, I was hoping that they'd line him up against a Kevin Na, for instance, where I could have gotten a price not there. But the interesting thing is, though, the betting market has really gotten hot on Russell Knox against Bubba Watson. And this is certainly a matchup that plays into the theories being espoused on this course. Russell Knox is a ball striker who can putt a little bit. Bubba's, he's a big bomber. And this opened about 115, 120. It's going all the way to 140, as high as 145 South Point now on Knox. That's sharp money. Okay, that's not recreational money on Russell Knox. So I think that plays into the way this tournament's being bet by the more professional market, if you will.
Dave, I think that's just to follow up on that, in terms of the betting markets in the golf world, do you find that the moves tend to be more sharp just because of the lack of public interest in this particular sport? And how do you kind of identify sharp from public in this specific sport with golf? Okay,
in the majors, no. But in this type of tournament, where you've got a lot of good names, but it's not a major, I think the market is fairly sharp. And I do pay attention to the line moves. In some cases, one of them that I'm seeing, it's moved like 15 cents, is the Dahmen Kisner matchup, which I did not include among my group, but I'm going to end up playing this. I'm going to take Dahmen for 2 reasons. One is that I think the sharp money's on him, and the second thing is he's one of the guys who played in those satellite events during this break, and I think that's going to be an edge for him against Kisner. I think that's part of the reason he's getting action. But this is going from Kisner being minus 130 on the Open, and Dahmen is now the favorite.
Interesting. So and Kisner was a guy that I liked because he's had really good experience at Colonial. So you're saying that experience isn't as important as Dahmen's basically ramp up in those satellites.
I would say I think that's going to be a key in this. Is guys who've played are going to have a little bit of an edge. A couple of them, I mean, the prices just don't. The prices aren't great, but I think for Dahmen, it could be pretty good. It's not like Kisner's in. Let me check my form sheet on Kevin Kisner. So it'll take me just 1 second to get to it here.
No worries.
He's had some success here. He's had 3 top 10s. He also missed a cut last year. I wouldn't be surprised if Kisner plays really well here. So it's not like this is a cinch, but I am gonna bet Dahmen at about minus 115. And a couple of quick notes on Dahmen. Let me get to him really quickly. He did finish 20th here last year, and this is a guy who's overcome a lot to kind of move up the chart in the PGA. I think he's going to be pretty good here.
We got a good question from Tim in the chat. Do you think a positive COVID test on any player halts the entire season? I don't. I think hopefully we just remove that player and move on. What are your guys' thoughts? Nick, you want to start off, and Andy, I'll get to you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, even in other sports, soccer going right now, they're isolating the player. I've seen where they've isolated an entire team. Obviously, this is not a team sport, so I think they'll isolate the player, pull him out, and continue on.
Yeah. Andy, do you agree?
Yeah, they said they're going to be flying the golfers and the caddies from one tournament to the other on, I think it's like 64% capacity flights. it'd be a real long shot to have an outbreak on one of those flights. That'd be the only way, and that seems highly unlikely.
That would be very interesting. Nick, I think you said you had a free play you're going to give out, or was that Andy? I forget.
No, I do have one.
Okay.
We hit a little bit about it before. You brought up Jason Day, and Dave mentioned, he's kind of fallen from grace. So my free play is agreeing with that. I'm going on Usti. Usti's an over Day this week. Day, as Dave said, he's fallen out of the big name realm. I mean, a few years back, he was there. He was winning majors. He was in contention every week, but he missed 2 of 5 cuts in his final 5 starts before the break. He withdrew from the Arnold Palmer. He's a guy that battles vertigo. I don't know this stat, but I'm just going to throw it out there and make it up, if you will. I don't know a name that withdraws from more tournaments consistently. It seems like so. If he even finishes the week, there's a percentage that he might not even finish this week. Usti, one of the best ball strikers in the world, fantastic iron player. He had 5 top 10s worldwide this season. He's a guy that he's quiet. He goes about his business, and he just beats you to death, and you didn't even see him coming. I like Usti. He's even money right now to beat Day. Day's actually the slight favorite, so I think there's good value right now.
Yeah, that's a good price. About 5 minutes left, so go around the room. Andy, any free plays, any looks that you think bettors maybe should be taking a peek at before we tee things off on Thursday?
Yeah, I've been making money betting on Daniel Berger. I'll do it again with him over Brandt Snedeker. Snedeker is just kind of all over the place. You would think this would be a course that would set up well for him, but I just can't argue with Berger's results. He's flying under the radar. He's not getting the publicity. He's not getting the talk. And this is a guy who's finishing in the top 10. I think he's motivated. And I always like getting these guys that the public isn't really paying attention to. You get, this is a weird season, but you get a limited time to keep cashing tickets on a guy until the betting markets and the public notice the guy. So I'm going to keep supporting Daniel Berger as one of my plays this week.
One more question I had for you guys, and I'm curious. We didn't talk about the some of the young guns, the Hovlands, the Morikawas. I'm on the fence about how the layoff will affect them. I do think overall, the more experience you have, especially with this tournament where the average age of the winner is 36 years old over the last 20 years, I would fade some of these younger guys, but I'm curious. Dave, is there any young gun, 22, 23-year-old kid you think is going to come out and fire this week?
Yeah, Morikawa is just a great young player. But I want to point something really interesting out here. Now, I'll call it personal bias because he's a friend, but I think Jeff Sherman at Superbook sharpest golf odds maker out there. And I'm looking at the prices, and on that matchup in particular, Morikawa Lowry, looking around the lines, you've got Pinnacle minus 166. 5 dimes minus 165. My screen right now at Superbook Morikawa minus 110.
Wow.
Against Lowry. So Jeff, it appears, unless that's on my screen wrong, and I'll check my Superbook account right after this. But if Jeff's taking that much of a stance on that, I might be considering Lowry as a personal bet here.
What do you guys think? Agree? Disagree?
Well, Wolf and Hovland have been fade material in matchups. If you have been fading those guys, they've really regressed. This is their first really big time on tour with a full season, and then this gets thrown into chaos. I don't think that sets up well for young guys. They're still trying to get into their own routine. At least some of the older guys have their routines and can at least have some semblance of normalcy. But for these young guys, they're still trying to figure out PGA Tour, and now they get this. I will be fading definitely Hovland and Wolf and potentially Morikawa based on what I see this week.
Nick, last word, young guns, fade or follow?
I agree. I mean, Morikawa of all the rookies, I would say would be my favorite of the week. But rookies, they don't fit the age bracket. They don't have the course experience. I would go to if there's any young gun, I would go to a sophomore, and I'm going to go Sungjae Im. He's been fantastic, playing great. We haven't talked about him at all.
Yeah.
Guns that I would look for this week. If any of them are going to do well, I think it's him. So I guy this week to do something.
I just want to offer a correction. On my screen, there's a Morikawa Lowry matchup, but I'm looking at my Superbook account right now, and I don't. It's not there. So
It's because they heard you, Dave. They took it down.
Morikawa versus Finau is a matchup that's on the board there, and that's a pick a minus 110.
Like Finau. Finau is one of the guys I really like this week. Again, you can get all these guys' picks on WagerTalk.com. We've got good deals. Again, we're not trying to scam you here. These guys are the real deal. And again, with the restart, we've got a lot of sports coming back. But golf, apparently, golf's going to take the first step. And we've got you covered this week for the very exciting Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial. My guys, Dave Cokin, Nick Borrman, Andy Lang, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jared Smith. This has been Tee It Up. What are we calling this? Tee It Up, the golf show? Is that what we're going to do? Tea time. I could go for a tea time right now. Maybe I'll go out to New Jersey and get on the course somewhere, Nick. You want to come with?
What do you mean? You just have to.
I'm going out.
Just have to just stand up and walk behind you. You're at Colonial now.
Yeah, this is it. This is Colonial right here.
You mean you're not really there?
No,
okay.
no. It looks pretty good, though, right?
The miracles of modern technology.
It's the magic of television. All right, we got the NFL show coming up next. Prez's got you covered on the NFC East. Signing off here on Wager Talk TV. I'm Jared Smith. Don't forget to follow these guys on Twitter and get on WagerTalk.com and get these picks. Tournament starts Thursday.